My name is Elvis. Welcome to Power Your Story Season 9, a podcast from After School Matters in Creator Imposter Studio in Chicago. This season, our theme is experience. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Program Director Andrea Klunder. For context, this interview with visual artist Ivan Vazquez was recorded in 2020. That year saw an upcoming political election, COVID lockdown, and a lot of commercial building board ups in communities around Chicago due to protests around the murder of George Floyd. In this episode, you'll hear Ivan and our student producers refer to, well, all of it. We'll link to Ivan's work in the show notes in your episode description in your app and at poweryourstorypodcast.com.
Welcome to Power Your Story Podcast. My name is Joel Maring, and today we're interviewing Ivan Vazquez, a Mexican-American visual artist born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. Joining me is Ryan, Al, Jonas, and D'Angelo. Ivan, tell us briefly how you became an artist.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and being interested in the work. The way I got started is sort of like this, like after school programs in Chicago, where there was older people taking time to show me something. And for me, it was hip hop. I got into breakdancing like when I was 8 years old. So that's how my introduction into art was through that scene.
What do you like to call your style of art?
I guess I would call it hip-hop art or art of the times, art that represents the times we're living in. Also like art of the future, like I try to be really well balanced with my work and my styles and try not to just do the same thing over and over again, even though doing something similar helps so that people could recognize it.
What was the epiphany you had at age 30?
I guess as a kid, I lost a friend at age 17. He was murdered, and me and him both were into hip hop stuff, and he chose to go more the gang route, and I chose to stay what I was doing. And unfortunately, he was killed really young, and I think that sort of held me back. Not dealing with the trauma held me back in my life, and that's why I didn't start having any success till I was 30. And I guess the epiphany was really just to deal with any pain that you're dealing with and try to deal with it positively. And for me, that was art, painting. All the paintings I did are for him. Like every painting I do is for him. It's about him, even if it may not seem like it. But yeah, that was my epiphany.
So before your epiphany, was there anything else you wanted to do career-wise?
Yeah, I was always one of those people that thought that my art or my interest in hip-hop was just a hobby. So I did think of doing stuff like in the medical field where I currently work part-time. So I thought about doing like radiology technician just because I didn't believe that I could make it as an artist. But once I started believing in myself, I was able to do whatever I wanted.
My name is D'Angelo Triplett. What inspires you to create your pieces?
Chicago's like a big inspiration for me. I feel like there's a lot of energy in the city and a lot of talent. Like the people of Chicago also are very inspirational. Like you guys are super inspirational. So stuff like this is what inspires me to paint, talking to you guys. So I think the energy in the city is like important to harness it and to harness it positively. And that's like a huge inspiration. And of course, family and where I come from, my roots, which is Chicago, but my family from Mexico. And hip hop culture a lot as well, because for me, hip hop culture saved my life. So it's always paying a tribute to it in some ways.
What do you like about making art in a Mexican community culture?
I guess I like the fact that I'm reconnecting to my culture. Growing up in Chicago, it's confusing, whether you're not Mexican enough for the Mexicans or you're not American enough for the Americans. So for me, it's like connecting to my culture in my own way, which is, again, using art as a weapon for positive outcomes, So for me, it's important to contribute to the culture in my own way that's honest to me and who I am.
How do you stay connected with your community?
For me, I guess ever since I was a kid, I'd show up, like go to a lot of community events since I've been 8 years old. So I like going to other people's art shows, people's music shows, protests, community events, going in every neighborhood, going to people's barbecues, going to just being out there, people see your face and see that you support.
Hello, my name's Ryan. Speaking of art related towards culture, racial injustice, and social change, why does it matter to you?
I guess because I've experienced it and I lived it. One of my first memories of injustice or me personally being a victim was breakdancing across my grammar school, across the street from my grammar school. And every day we would get harassed by the cops. And one day I just had enough. I was only like 10 years old and it just came out of me. And I said, "We're just dancing," with attitude to the cop. And he immediately walked over to me and punched me in the stomach, like full force. And I just remember like the wind being blown out of me. Ever since then, I learned like, don't talk back and now that I'm an adult, I think back like, wow, I was only a kid. I was only 11 years old. Like, I can't imagine me as a 38-year-old punching an 11-year-old kid for anything. But yeah, I guess that's why I really got active, because I've experienced it myself.
Have you created any work specifically focusing around this year's political election?
Yeah, I think a lot of this type of stuff here, like where the characters have the indigenous mask on, because for me, it's like sometimes we got to remind ourselves who we are, and the elections and all that stuff, they try to paint us in is not who we are. So if anybody's going to tell our story, it's going to be us, and that we're warriors and we could fight through anything. Like nothing's going to stop us. Not some guy that's spreading hate, like, because we know who we are. So that's sort of what this kind of art is all about, is recognizing who we are and that we come from a lineage of warriors.
Can you, Ivan, describe a little bit the mask that you're referring to?
The masks are traditionally Aztec masks that I bought when I was a kid, and I went to Teotihuacan, which are the pyramids outside of Mexico City. And they just represent to me like reconnecting to my indigenous spirituality and where my family comes from and my ancestors, and the importance of embracing my own indigenous features and who I am as a person of color.
What is your message to young artists about how to gain a voice in a world that seems like they're always trying to be silenced?
If I had any advice, I would probably say just be honest 100% with who you are and in your art. Believe in yourself. It sounds corny, but when I heard it as a kid, when people told me that, I was like, yeah, whatever. But it really makes a load of difference when you actually believe in yourself, and to just not give up and keep pushing, because they can't really silence you. When you have something that's powerful, it's going to break through anything. So that would probably be my advice, to believe in yourself and keep pushing.
Hey, my name is Abba Hawaii. Question is, tell us about your family. Do you have children? Are you ever afraid of them with everything happening with racism and policing?
I do not have any children, but yeah, of course, I'm afraid for like nephews, and I'm afraid for youth in general. In my day, it was pretty bad as well. So for you guys, I can imagine it's even worse. I come from a different era, and I really commend you guys, because you guys are fearless. And some of us from back in the day, we don't have the guts to pull out our phones to question them at all. So yeah, of course I'm scared, because you guys are doing more and you're stepping up more to fight against it. So of course that scares me for the youth. For me personally, I don't have any kids, and it probably wouldn't mess with me, but I'd make it a point to teach them about it really young. I think it's important to teach kids street smarts as well as book smarts.
Okay. All right, so the next question is, what will be some precautions you would tell your children or other young people?
For me, I would say like pay attention. Like there's written laws and that we all know of that, but there's also like street laws that we have to pay attention to and all that stuff because it's important to navigate safely. Because Chicago is that kind of city where you never know what could happen. So I think it's important to really just be knowledgeable of everything and to stay balanced. In a city like Chicago, I think balance and staying grounded is important. So that would be like my point of view.
Okay, and the last question is, what is your prized piece that you crave?
My most recent piece is a painting called Aztec Princess Mononoke, which is like a redo of a flip of a Japanese animation movie. And the movie is about a character who is like a fighter and protector of nature. So my version is more like the protector of the urban jungle, meaning Chicago, like she watches over us and takes care of us. So it's sort of like a message where we got to take care of each other and where we live in order for us to prosper.
Hi, my name is Leah. My question is, are you like a huge anime fan?
I was like back in the 90s. I used to love all those like Ninja Scroll and Fist of the North Star and Princess Mononoke, of course. So yeah, but I haven't kept up with like the new stuff yet. I would love to try to make some time and catch some of the new stuff.
Yeah, I just noticed a lot of your art is like has a mixture of like both Mexican culture as well as like modern things. So I just noticed how beautiful it was. So I thought it was amazing.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I try to show like, where we're at, which is like Chicago, and that's like the modern part of it for me.
How did COVID-19 affect either way the flow of how many murals you painted?
Oh yeah, COVID-19, I guess, really shut us down. So we had to like scramble to figure out a way to still work. So for me, I guess the extra time was valuable. The time I didn't spend doing commercial work or going out to shows or socializing, I spent at home in the studio creating a lot of new work, a lot of stuff that people were going to really be excited about. So in that solitude, like I just worked really hard and created a lot of stuff to put out. And surprisingly, this year, I would think I'd be losing, but I'm doing better than I did last year, probably because the time is valuable. And of course, during a lot of mural work, a lot of community work during the board ups, we started painting the board up stores in the community to spread messages, positive messages, and push, that good art. And it was just a lot of fun being out there during these times.
What are some community projects you are working on right now?
It was ever since the pandemic started, like all the art shows, basically the whole summer was canceled. So I had to figure out a way to continue to make a living without losing all that income from all the events. I made a lot of masks. I put my art on masks, some sweaters, some hoodies, some jackets, posters, all kinds of things, coffee mugs, accessible items that people can afford and affordable art. But yeah, that's sort of what I'm doing is like vamping up the online shop. And I just did a Hispanic Heritage Month with Target. And I'm designing a wrapper for a chocolate company from Mexico and a company here in Chicago as well. They're doing like a collaboration where they're putting out a chocolate. I'm also learning like the digital art route. So I'm trying to learn all this technical stuff. Even this Zoom for me is challenging because I'm so old school, but it's a lot of fun to learn and to transition into this digital world.
I understand.
I have a question for you, Ivan. You said that when you were young and you were exploring art that you didn't necessarily always believe in yourself. And people would always say like, oh, you got to believe in yourself. But it's hard to sometimes take that to heart and really own that. And I'm curious why it was hard to believe in yourself and then how that changed.
I think because sometimes we have a lot of misconceptions of what strength is. I mean, for me personally, growing up in Chicago, you're taught you have to be really tough. You have to be hard. You can't be sensitive. You can't be soft. But when I learned to realize that soft people or being balanced, you got to be flexible. You got to be able to bend. If you're too hard, you break. Like sadly, my friend, like he was like that. Like he's gone now. So I learned that, I guess, balance, and that a lot of the things that I thought were negatives or were like my weaknesses were actually my superpowers. And it really made me believe that who I am is enough to make it, and to have that respect that I never had. So it's really cool feeling to see it come into fruition and to realize like, damn, I wasted all that time not believing in myself. So I guess that's what I would think helped a lot.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I guess I just really want to thank all of you guys for your interest and your questions. They mean a lot to me. I'm here because of like your teacher and people. This program, when I was a kid, I was a street level kid and Gallery 37 kid. So I really appreciate giving all the love I received back, and just wanted to thank you for the opportunity.
I don't think you guys know that After School Matters used to be called Gallery 37. So when he said Gallery 37, yeah, it was Gallery 37, and then it became After School Matters later, but it's basically like an expansion of the same program. So he did the same kind of program that you guys are doing right now.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Okay. Thank you, Ivan, for joining us on Power Your Story. Where can people learn more about your art and check it out?
You guys can check me out at www.ivanvazquezart.com and on Instagram at the Chicago Lago. Lago as in beach in Spanish. But yeah, you guys could check me out there, and it's a really cool thing to do this with you guys.
It's good seeing you, Ivan.
Thank you, Ivan.
Nice meeting all.
Thank you.
Power Your Story podcast is produced by Chicago high school students with production support from After School Matters and the Creative Imposter Studios. Our theme music is by Gennaro Jackson, aka DJ Sparks. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Power Your Story Podcast. Thank you for listening. Peace.